Think your dog is just staring at a blank wall during your Zoom meetings? Look closer. Not at the wall, at the digital grain behind you. At the flicker in the corner of your camera feed, the part your eyes keep dismissing as bad lighting, low bandwidth, or compression, because some believe that pets aren't reacting to empty rooms at all. They're tracking something else, something that leaks through the lens. And if that sounds ridiculous, that's exactly what Tyler Monroe thought the night his dog refused to leave his office, until the recording showed the truth. Tyler lived alone outside Columbus, Ohio, working remote IT support. His life was painfully normal. He rented a beige townhouse at the edge of the woods. Nothing about the place felt off. No weird noises, no creepy history. It was just a house with bad insulation and unreliable internet whenever it rained. About 2 months before Tyler disappeared, his coworkers started noticing Ranger during calls. Not barking, not growling. Just staring. Every time Tyler joined a meeting, Ranger would sit beside the chair and fix his eyes on the back corner near the closet door. Always the same spot. Coworkers joked about ghosts, and Tyler laughed with them. But then Ranger stopped acting harmless. He stopped sleeping. He stopped leaving the office entirely. He wouldn't even follow Tyler for food if the camera was on. He stayed planted, tracking something with slow movements like he was watching somebody pace. The first time Tyler got genuinely unsettled was during a Monday morning team call. There were 12 people on screen, talking about a system outage. His manager suddenly stopped and said, "Tyler, who's in the room with you?" Tyler turned around immediately. Nobody. Just the closet and the floor lamp. "Something moved behind you," the manager insisted. Others agreed. They saw a shadow. Tyler dismissed it as lag, but later that night, he watched the recording. At normal speed, nothing jumped out. Then Tyler slowed it down. Frame by frame, the background broke apart into ugly blocks of digital noise and artifacts, but one cluster of pixels didn't behave like the rest. It held shape tall, vertical, thin, too structured to be random. It leaned slightly to the left. Tyler replayed it 12 times. He shut the laptop when Ranger, who had been lying on the bed, started growling at the dark screen. Not the room. Screen. Over the next week, Tyler became obsessed. He recorded every call, testing angles, changing lighting, moving the desks to prove to himself it was nothing. But the distortion kept appearing, always behind him. And Ranger always saw it first. The dog would run upstairs and sit in the doorway before calls even started. Tyler wrote in his notes, he reacts to the camera before the call starts. Not voices, not people, the camera itself. Something was living in the feed. He texted his sister, Megan. At first, in a joking way, screenshots with red circles. She told him to sleep more, to cut the caffeine. But the recordings got stranger. Sometimes the shape appeared as a bend in the image, like the room itself was folding in one corner. During a storm, the distortion moved across the frame while Tyler remained perfectly still. Then, Tyler found what looked like 2 pale points inside the static. They were set at the height where eyes should have been. Ranger barked so violently at that frame that Tyler dropped his laptop. 3 nights later, Tyler finally called Megan instead of texting. He sounded exhausted. He knew it wasn't a glitch. It was a witness. Not scared exactly. More like someone who had gone too long without sleep and had become absolutely certain of something terrible. A told they'd been digging through obscure forums and old IT threads, places where people talk about weird webcam behavior, phantom movement in compressed video, pets reacting during and noise entities that appear only through unstable digital transmission. Most of it was nonsense. Urban legend, tech creepy, but one phrase kept showing up. Wraiths. According to the posts, they weren't ghosts in the traditional sense. They were patterns that learned how to imitate structure inside digital compression, sentient distortions, things that could only exist where a camera tried to recreate a room imperfectly. A human eye sees a corner. A webcam sees 1,000 guesses stitched together in real time. And in those guesses, sometimes something else forms. Something that shouldn't, something that notices when it's being rendered. The more stable the feed, the weaker it looks. The more dropped frames, lag spikes, and digital grain, the stronger it becomes. And pets notice because they aren't looking at the image the way people do. They react to motion before meaning, presence before logic. Megan told him to stop reading that garbage and go stay with her for the weekend. Tyler said something that she would repeat later to police. He said, very quietly, "I don't think it's in the room, Meg. I think the room happens around it when the camera turns on." The last confirmed time anyone saw Tyler alive was Thursday at 8:43 p.m. during an emergency after-hours Zoom call with 3 co-workers. A thunderstorm had rolled through central Ohio. Internet outages everywhere. Bad connection, audio stutter, frozen frames, perfect conditions. Tyler joined late. His camera came on first, then his audio. At once, all 3 co-workers noticed Ranger, the dog, was not under the desk. He was standing rigid in the doorway, fur raised, lips pulled back, eyes fixed directly behind Tyler's chair. Tyler looked awful, sweaty, pale, like he hadn't slept in days. One co-worker asked if he was okay. He ignored the question and asked something else. "Do I look normal on your end?" Nobody understood what he meant. He said it again. "Don't look at me. Look behind me. Does the background look normal?" There was a pause. Then one coworker said, "Tyler." Another said, "There's somebody there." Tyler didn't move. On the recording, he just sat frozen, staring at his own screen. Then very slowly, he reached for the keyboard and enlarged his self-view. His breathing became audible. Ranger began barking, not at the room, but at the monitor. The video quality dropped hard. The whole image broke into thick blocks of gray and blue compression. Audio clipped, frames skipped, and in those skipped frames, the thing behind Tyler stopped pretending to be part of the background. It was tall enough that its head nearly touched the top of the door frame. Its body was wrong to narrow in some frames, too broad in others. It did not walk into view. It resolved into view, like it had always been there, and the call had simply gotten bad enough to finally see it. Tyler whispered, "You can see it now." One coworker told him to get out of the room. Another was shouting his name. But Tyler didn't run. He was staring at his self-view, because on screen, the thing wasn't behind him anymore. It was directly over his shoulder, and its head was bent down beside his ear, as if listening. Then Tyler did something no one expected. He turned around. The instant he turned, the image on Zoom glitched so violently that the room smeared into static. Ranger lunged forward. A loud crack filled the audio. Not thunder, not a mic pop, something closer, sharper, like a webcam snapping or glass splitting inside the laptop. The last clear frame of the recording showed Tyler half out of his chair, mouth open, and behind him, not the figure, but a second Tyler, standing in the corner near the closet, perfectly still, facing the camera. Then the call disconnected. Police were called by one of the co-workers within minutes. They found the townhouse locked from the inside. No sign of forced entry. No blood. Tyler's laptop was open on the desk. The webcam lens was cracked from the inside. Ranger was found downstairs, trembling under the kitchen table. Tyler was gone. So was his phone. What investigators couldn't explain was the recording, not the obvious glitches. It was the final frame they couldn't dismiss, because metadata showed no edits, no layered video, no AI generation, and in the still image taken one frame before the disconnect, there appeared to be 2 identical men in the room. One seated, one standing in the corner, both tagged by Zoom's facial tracking box. Only one was looking at the camera. So, tonight, if your cat keeps staring at the bookshelf during FaceTime, if your dog plants itself beside your chair every time your webcam turns on, if you notice a patch of grain behind you that seems to hold shape a little too well, don't laugh it off. Don't zoom in. And whatever you do, don't stay on the call after your connection starts to break up. Because maybe your pet isn't watching an empty corner. Maybe it's tracking something your camera is trying and failing not to show you. Something patient, something that grows clearer the longer you remain connected, something that isn't standing behind you. It's standing where the room becomes data, and if it's already visible in the grain, then it may already be close enough to step through. We've all blamed bad Wi-Fi. Frozen faces, pixelated backgrounds, strange glitches that flicker across the screen and disappear before we can really look at them. It's easy to dismiss, easy to explain. But what if those glitches aren't errors? What if they're moments where something hidden briefly becomes visible? Because after reviewing dozens of recordings and isolating the same patterns across different homes, one conclusion keeps coming up. High-frequency glitches in video calls are not random. They are revealing shapes, non-human silhouettes. And the most disturbing part, your pets already see them. The case that started this investigation came from a man named Aaron Patel. 30 lives in Austin, Texas, works remotely in cybersecurity, the kind of person who doesn't believe in anything he can't verify, which is exactly why this case matters, because Aaron didn't start with fear. He started with data. It began with his dog, a 4-year-old Labrador named Coda.com, trained, predictable. Until Aaron switched to full-time remote work. Every day, during video calls, Coda would walk into Aaron's home office, sit down near the door, and stare at the same corner. Not barking, not reacting aggressively. Hustwatsing for long periods of time, sometimes over an hour. At first, Aaron ignored it. Dogs fixate on things. Sounds in the walls. Shadows. Light reflections, but then he noticed something specific. Coda only did it when the camera was on. Aaron tested it. He opened Zoom, camera off. Coda stayed relaxed, lying down, normal behavior. Then he turned the camera on. Within seconds, Coda stood up, walked to the corner, and stared. That was the first anomaly. The second came during a client meeting. Aaron's colleague stopped mid-sentence and asked, "Hey, is someone else in your room?" Aaron turned. Nothing. The room was empty. But when he checked the recording later, he saw what his colleague had seen. Not clearly, but enough. In the background near the corner where Coda always stared, there was a vertical distortion, darker than the rest of the image, standing shape, unmoving. Aaron didn't panic. He analyzed. Because that's what he does. He downloaded the recording, pulled it into video analysis software, isolated the frames, increased contrast, reduced noise, and that's when things stopped making sense. The distortion wasn't random. It had structure, consistent height, consistent position across multiple frames. Even when Aaron moved, even when lighting changed, it remained anchored. Then he checked another recording, and another, and another. Same shape, same corner, same behavior. That's when Aaron started documenting everything. Dates, times, lighting conditions, internet stability, bitrate fluctuations. Because he noticed something important. The shape was clearest when the connection was unstable, when packets dropped, when the image struggled to render cleanly. And that's when Aaron formed his theory. Modern cameras don't capture reality perfectly. They reconstruct it. Every frame is compressed, rebuilt, approximated edges guessed, shadows filled in, details smoothed. But when the signal weakens, that reconstruction breaks down, the image stops being stable, stops being predictable, and for brief moments it shows what's actually there. Not what the camera thinks is there. What is there? What is there? Aaron called it residual presence encoding. A way to describe something that exists physically, but is filtered out under normal visual conditions, only visible when digital systems fail to process it correctly. And according to his data, these presences weren't rare. They were everywhere. Most people just never saw them, because the system corrected the image before they could. But animals, they don't rely on visual reconstruction. They react to presence, movement, energy. That's why Coda wasn't confused. Coda wasn't imagining anything. Coda was watching something real. Over the next week, Aaron's recordings changed. The shape didn't just stand there anymore. It moved slightly between frames, not smoothly, not like a person walking, more like repositioning, appearing in one place, then another, always within the same area, always near the corner, and Coda tracked it perfectly. Head turning slowly, eyes following something Aaron still couldn't fully see. Then came the first direct interaction during a late-night call. Aaron noticed something in the reflection of his monitor. Not in the background, not in the corner. Closer. Behind his chair, he froze. Didn't turn around, didn't move. Instead, he looked at the recording afterward, frame by frame. And there it was. For less than half a second, a silhouette. Tall. Standing directly behind him, not in the corner anymore. Closer. Much closer. Aaron stopped sleeping after that. Stopped leaving the office, because he realized something. The shape wasn't tied to the room, it was tied to the camera. Every time the camera turned on, it appeared, and every time it got closer. Then came the final recording. Timestamp. 11:47 p.m. Storm outside. Heavy rain. Internet unstable. Perfect conditions. Aaron started a test call. No one else on the line. Just him. Recording. Waiting. Coda entered the room immediately. Didn't hesitate. Went straight to Aaron's side. And stared. Not at the corner, but at the screen. At the camera. That was new. Aaron noticed it. Whispered, "What do you see?" The video began to glitch. Hard, heavy pixelation. Frame drops. Audio distortion. And then, for the first time, the shape became clear. Not fully, but enough. It wasn't flat. It wasn't just a shadow. It had depth. Form. A head, shoulders, arms that extended too far, and it wasn't behind him. It was partially inside the image, like it was pushing through from somewhere else. Coda started barking. Loud, aggressive, backing away. Aaron leaned closer to the screen, trying to understand what he was seeing, and that's when it moved. Not in the background, toward him. Across the image, frame by frame. Closer, clearer, until the distortion reached the foreground, and something appeared on the surface of the lens, not behind Italiano, on Italiano, a shape pressing forward. Trying to come through, Aaron stood up, knocked his chair over. The recording captured one final detail. In the reflection of the screen, there was something standing in the room. Behind him, in the same position as the shape in the video. Perfectly aligned, Aaron disappeared that night. No signs of forced entry. No struggle. No evidence of anyone entering or leaving. Coda was found in the hallway, refusing to go back into the office. Aaron's computer was still recording. The final frame showed an empty chair, and the corner was no longer empty. We've analyzed that footage, compared it to others, different homes, different states, different cameras, some patterns. So the next time your video freezes, or your background distorts, or your pet starts staring at something you can't see, don't assume it's just bad Wi-Fi, because the more unstable the signal, the more visible they become. And if you can see them clearly, it may already be too late, because your empty corners aren't empty at all. They're crowded. And something in that crowd is starting to notice. You think your cat is just acting strange during your video calls? The way it suddenly freezes. Stares behind your chair, tracks something that isn't there. Stop ignoring it, because your pet isn't confused. It's reacting to something you can't see yet. And if what we've uncovered is true, those moments aren't random behavior. They're warnings. This started with a case out of Portland, Oregon. A woman named Claire Donovan, 29, working remotely for a marketing firm. Her setup was simple: a small home office, desk facing the wall, and behind her, an open space leading into a short hallway. Nothing unusual, no history, no strange activity. And for months, everything was normal until her cat changed. Miso had always been calm, independent. But a few weeks into Claire's remote schedule, something shifted. Every time Claire turned on her camera, Miso would enter the room and stare directly behind Claire. Fixed, focused. At first, Claire laughed it off. She even joked about it during meetings. Her coworkers noticed it too. They'd make comments like, "Your cat looks like it sees ghosts." It became a small, harmless joke, but then the behavior changed. Miso stopped blinking. Her eyes would slowly move from one side to the other, like she was tracking something walking across the space. One afternoon during a team call, Claire's manager suddenly interrupted her. "Is someone else in your room?" Claire turned immediately. Nothing. The room was empty, but her manager didn't look convinced. He said he saw movement behind her. Claire brushed it off. Bad connection. Lighting issue. Compression glitch. That's what it had to be. That night, she opened the recording. At normal speed, nothing stood out. Then she slowed it down, frame by frame, and that's when she saw it. In the background, behind her chair, the image shifted. L shape, a vertical form. Claire replayed it again and again. It didn't behave like random distortion. It stayed in place. It appeared at the exact moment Miso reacted. The next day, she decided to test something. She opened a Zoom call with no one else connected, just her camera. Within seconds, Miso entered, jumped onto the desk, and stared behind her. Claire didn't turn around this time. She watched the screen. And after about a minute, it appeared again. The same distortion, the same shape. Standing behind her, Claire felt her breathing slow, her hands tighten. Because this time, she knew exactly where to look. It was real enough for her cat. Over the next week, the pattern became undeniable. The distortion only appeared when the camera was on. And every time, it was closer, not moving like a person, more like it was being re-rendered in a new position. Frame by frame. Closer each time, Miso's behavior changed to visible fear. Her ears flattened. She began to hiss. Her eyes never left that point behind Claire. And then, something new happened. Miso stopped looking behind Claire. She started looking at the screen, directly into the camera. That was the moment Claire realized something was very wrong. Whatever this was, it wasn't just in the room. It was connected to the camera. The final recording happened 3 nights later. A storm had rolled in. Heavy rain. Unstable internet. The video feed flickered constantly. Claire started another test call. Just the camera, whose to feed Miso, was already there. Staring at the screen, Claire stayed still, waiting. The distortion appeared almost immediately. Stronger this time. Clearer. Not just a shape, a silhouette. Tall, standing directly behind her chair. Claire's breathing slowed. She didn't turn around. She didn't want to confirm it physically, because if it was real in the room, there was nowhere to go. Instead, she watched the screen, watched as the silhouette shifted closer, until it stopped directly behind her, close enough that its outline overlapped her own. Miso let out a low, guttural hiss, and then the image broke. For a single frame, it resolved. The distortion became clear. It wasn't flat. It had depth. A head, shoulders, and something where a face should have been, but incomplete. Like the image couldn't fully form it, Claire reached for the laptop. Not to close it? To zoom in. That was the mistake. The moment she enlarged the image, the silhouette reacted. It leaned forward, toward the camera, toward her. And then something appeared on the screen. Not behind the image, on the lens. A faint impression, like something pressing from the other side. Claire jerked back, knocking her chair over. The screen flickered violently, and in the reflection of the darkened display. For a split second, she saw it, standing in the room. Exactly where it had been in the video, perfectly aligned. Claire shut the laptop immediately. The room went silent. Nothing moved. Nothing followed. But Miso didn't stop staring, even with the screen off. Even in complete darkness, she kept watching the same spot. For hours. Claire left that apartment the next morning. She hasn't turned her camera on since, but the recordings, they didn't stop. Because once something has been rendered clearly enough, it doesn't need the same conditions anymore. It learns, it adapts, and it finds new ways to appear. So if your cat suddenly starts acting strange during your video calls, if it refuses to leave your side, if it stares behind your chair like something is standing there, stop ignoring it. Don't assume it's nothing. Don't try to explain it away. And whatever you do, don't zoom in on the distortion behind you, because your pet isn't confused. It's trying to warn you, because those shapes in the digital noise, those silhouettes that only appear when the signal breaks, they aren't glitches. They're watching. And the longer you stay connected, the closer they get. So before your next call, look at your screen, watch your pet, and ask yourself one question. If there's nothing behind you, then what is your cat looking at right now?